Hi, guys. So last night, Jason sent me the transcript from the air traffic control. I spent some time this morning and last night, and I have a little update for Jason and Ben and Alan Kay and anybody else that is interested in this DB Cooper stuff. And to get a few things out of the way, a couple of people mentioned something in the video, and they're right. One guy mentioned that they might not have followed a Victor highway because of the fact that they were hijacked. So they might do things a little bit different or steer the plane differently. However, this green line is Victor 20. So just assuming you're a pilot and you're taking off, you're probably going to get on that highway while you contemplate or discuss with air traffic control what you're going to do ultimately, right? So we knew that they were headed to Reno. Everybody knew that at this point when they took off. We just didn't know how they were going to get there. Now, this green line is Victor 23, and it goes to here, and then you have to make a slight turn if you want to stay on Victor 20, and that would take you to Eugene. The one reason why I think they did follow Victor 20 is even though that information might be staged, everything that we've heard about the case, including where they think he jumped out, is all along Victor. It's not along this other Victor airway over here. That's also an airway. Just keep in mind that airway may not have existed in the 70s. I don't know. But we got Tina Bar. We got, where they found the cache and by Castle Rock and where the deer hunter found the plate that tells you how to operate the steps. That was all along Victor 20. So that's why I think but to be honest with you, Jason and Ben don't seem to be so much concerned with this part of the flight. They're more concerned with they believe that he did not do anything up here. Like he went after he got the money and got off the plane, he went back there and planted that money there. We know that the serial numbers were from the hijacked money. So that means he had to do it after he jumped, not before. But he may have done that to make it look like and make everybody think he jumped off here. But see, what Jason and the other guys are trying to do is say, no, he jumped off closer to Reno. Because what we do know is that the stairs opened right here, right by Salcombe in Washington, okay? And they remained open for the duration of the flight until the plane landed, as a matter of fact. We know that for sure. So he could have, the buffet that they felt could have been from the initial opening, although the plane was not pressurized when they took off. But we know for a fact from the indicator light that the stairs opened here. There's a lot of reasons why it would buffet. The Cascades are here. There's mountains all over the place that cause updrafts, and the plane's gonna shimmy a little bit when it goes over them. So they may have just, your mind, when you look at the light, the stairs open, that things change. Your mind may just, like, well, he jumped at that point. But the fact is he probably didn't. So who knows if they're right or not, but I want to make that clear that I'm not really working on the DB Cooper stuff. They are. This is their gig. I don't want to, step in on their action. I'm just trying to provide whatever I can to help them, before they go boots on the ground. But anyway, this is the stuff that I already explained, but I added a bunch of new information down here. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to clean things up a bit. I'm going to get rid of the blue trail, which is the normal way that they would fly in today. I'm going to get rid of that. The green trail, as we know, is the way that I would have came in if I were them. Okay, now I'm going to get rid of a couple of these waypoints just because they're annoying me. And we don't really need to discuss them right now. So let's get rid of that one. Okay, let's get rid of FMG. So there we got K Reno. That's the tower at the airport. Okay, these circles. This is 10 miles. All right. This circle is 30 miles, and I'll tell you why in a minute. And this one is 42 miles. Now, this purple line is basically based on the air traffic controller communications back and forth with Northwest Flight 305 as they were reporting where they caught him on radar and where they were giving him vectors and coordinates and also telling him when to descend. And I recorded those points. I'll show you the air traffic controller stuff in a minute, but when they said that they initially seen him on the radar, he was west northwest of Reno. So the way that works is west, of course, is 270 degrees. I drew that line here. That's west, directly west, 270. Northwest would be halfway between this 90 degrees. So that would be 315 degrees roughly right here. So when they say west northwest, what they mean is west of northwest. So in other words, northwest is exactly half between the 90, then west northwest is half of that. Okay. So this would be 45 degrees. So that's 22 and a half degrees right here, which put you at 292. So 292 degrees is west northwest. So if we measure out west northwest at 292, now remember, they're giving approximate locations. They didn't put a protractor there, although I did. I actually have a compass tool here, and I can align that up with any point and measure my bearings out there. They probably have the same tools, but anyway, I'm just going to go with what they gave us on air traffic control. So they said that at 0634 Greenwich Mean Time, which is 10:34 p.m. Reno, local Reno time. There's an 8-hour difference. The plane was headed at 060, which is this direction of this purple line, and he was 42 miles out, which is right exactly here. Right, put that pin. My lines aren't exact, but yeah, right where the head of the pin is basically where the head of the pin should be right here, technically. Okay, so I could fix that. The head of the pin would be right there. Okay. So he was headed 60 degrees from that location. Okay, where along this purple line, basically. All right. The next time that they got a hold of him was at approximately just after 6:35 or 10:35 p.m. At that point, they had him tracked 30 miles out, and he was directly northwest. So if we take a northwest bearing out of here, that's 315 degrees. The plane was roughly here. Okay. And he was still heading 60 degrees. They told him to maintain that 60 degrees, but they told him to descend to 9,000 feet roughly when he got here. Just about a 1 minute span before they talked to him again. And they told him, okay, turn to 90 degrees. So now he's heading directly east. So they vectored him here and they told him to go down to 9,000 feet. So by the time he got where Fittoon is here, they had him at 9,000 feet and then they told him to turn to 130 degrees, which is this purple line. Then they told him this blue line here is the ILS vector coming straight out of that runway 16. All right. So they told him now to intercept this and then just maintain your heading and come in. So he was supposed to do exactly what I said over here. And when you intercept the ILS, you just make your turn and then you go straight in. They contacted him and they told him he was 1 mile due east of the ILS intercept. That puts him down here because he was still heading 130 degrees. So he was roughly here. He was at 8,200 feet when he arrived here. So they told them to maintain that height of 8,200 feet and turn to 190 to intercept the ILS. And the purple line is heading at 190. At about somewhere over here, there's a lot of back and forth with the air traffic control where he was talking about whether or not he was going to raise the stairs. So basically, the air traffic control put him in a holding pattern. And the holding pattern, I think, is roughly 5 miles here. And they told him to keep it to the left of him or east of the ILS vector. So they basically told him to maintain 8,200 feet and circle around here until he was ready to land. And ultimately, he did not raise the steps. He landed with the steps lowered and told them that, there'll be sparks. So you want to maintain, uh, whatever fire department or whatever going to need there, that there would be. That's interesting. There's a place here named Sparks. But he's talking about sparks from the lowered staircase. So we know the staircase was lowered all the way from up here, all the way down. They flew. So he could have jumped out at any point. He could have jumped out up here, here, anywhere. All right. Those guys think he jumped out down here. So again, these strong circles, this is 30 miles. This is 42 miles. They had radar contact here and they had radar contact here. Now, obviously, they weren't being precise. So these things could be a little bit off, but it seems obvious to me because I know Fittoon is here. And Fittoon is a major intersection that they use to route flights coming from the west in order to get them to line up on 16 to come in for the landing, an ILS landing. Now, the strange thing about this, and again, this is based on the air traffic control. This is not my estimate. I'm assuming that the air traffic control documentation is correct, but this is based on what the plane was heading, the speed of the plane, which is roughly 172 miles an hour. He told them to go slower than that, but they didn't. They were going 172 miles an hour. Over here, they were roughly at 10,000 feet. Then over here, between here and here, they had him dropping down to 9,000 feet. And then when he got here, he was at 8,200. He never increased altitude at that point. So from this point on, we know he was at 8,200 feet. So considering the fact that this peak is 8,000, I can tell you for sure that the plane did not go anywhere up in this area. For sure. Because he could have hit the mountains. They're not going to put him within 200 or 300 feet of the altitude of the high peaks in that area. They do these routings for a reason, because of not only because of the mountains that are here and here and here and here, but there may be towers and other things local or airspace over here that, like, for example, the gliders that they want you to avoid. So even though it was hijacked, they're not going to deviate from ground collisions. They're not going to put anybody else at risk. All right. So this purple, and excuse the noise from the dogs. I mean, I just want to get this out there for you guys, but this is pretty odd. I don't know what the plane was doing down here. Now, when he came to Eugene, he might have taken a different path. There's other airways. If you look on the Sky Vector map, you could see all of the airways over there. So when he came down, he might have been following this one. We don't know. He could have came in from this way. I doubt it, but he could have. You'll notice there's less beacons over here. That plane may have came down here and came along this way. So I don't know. I know that Jason indicated a lot with Pyramid Lake, but I think this pretty much proves the plane didn't go anywhere near there. And you could follow, like I said, just like I did. It is odd that he was this far. Technically, like I said, this is northwest over here. So he came down a little bit farther south than he had to before he could have came over. But who knows what they did? So they didn't come in on this green vector, because it wouldn't make any sense if they spotted the plane here. He's not going to come down and then make a hard left turn. It doesn't make sense. They're not going to come down, here and make a hard left turn. So he probably kind of came in around like this. So I don't know what to tell you, but this is the path that the plane took. And when it circled somewhere around this square that I have. I'd say north of Sun Valley and somewhere south of here if you wanted to extend it out 10 miles. Okay. But he told them to stay east of this blue line. And we know because he told them to maintain 8,200 feet that he did not go up in this area. We just know that. And again, where they vectored him, both times they showed him on the radar was here and here. And then this was just minutes later where they were telling him when to turn. So there's no way that he went out in that area. He was already too low by the time he was right around here. And it all makes sense just from an air traffic control standpoint that they're not gonna send him out over there. And they put him in a holding pattern over here while he was deciding what to do with the stairs. So that's pretty much my conclusion. If you guys want to look at it more and kind of see, I mean, I can give you all these coordinates offline if you want to find these locations that I have. FitTune, you could find that the GPS coordinates are online. I showed you how to find that back here in on the websites and Route Finder and stuff. They give you the locations of those spots. All right, and in SkyVector you could find them. Okay, so here's the transcript of the air traffic control communication, and this is between Oakland air traffic control, Reno Tower, and the Flight 305 itself. And I'm going to go through it, just scroll through it pretty quick so that you guys could take a look at it. It's 16 pages long. So you could pause this as you see fit. I want to focus in on a couple of things that are inside this document. But one of the things I want to mention that both Jason and I came to the conclusion these timestamps in this transcript are wrong. Now, I don't know who did the transcript, but I'm going to assume that what they said is correct. But the times, whatever they used, the timer or whatever, because they were listening to a radio transmission, I don't think they did it accurately when they were going, because it just doesn't make sense. If you try to plot the points based on the time, the plane would have had to have been traveling 1,000 miles an hour. So that part, I don't believe, is completely accurate. But what is accurate is what the headings that they're telling you to take in here, and what direction they're telling you to turn to, the wind speed, the altitudes, and the mileage. That's all correct. So I try to break everything down based on that point that I showed you in the previous video. So if we take a look at that here, code 11, by the way, is they had search and rescue when the plane was first hijacked in DC. I mean in Washington. They had two fighter jets scramble, but then they found out that he's flying too low of an altitude for the fighter jets to really be effective. So sometime after they got, I guess probably by Portland, Oregon, they switched over to a single C-130 that was tailing them from 5 miles back and 2,000 feet higher in altitude than they were. So if they were flying at 10,000, the rescue was 5 miles behind at 12,000 feet. Okay, and they were on frequency 126.3. These are all copied directly out of that document that I just showed you. And I just want to go over a few points here that are obvious. So here, they're just as RNO is Reno, Oak is Oakland. Those are the two towers talking to each other. And then this is just my note. So here, the first place they ID the plane was 42 miles west-northwest of Reno, heading at 060, and he was at 11,000 feet. Now, west-northwest means the direction or compass point midway between west and northwest. So straight west is 270. 360, of course, is north, so there's a difference of 90 degrees. Northwest is half of 90, or 45, so 315 degrees is northwest. So when they say west of northwest, that means it's halfway between 270 and 315. So that would put him at roughly 292 degrees. Okay, and he was heading in a direction of 060 at that point. That's the outermost circle that I have where I put that dot, where he was heading 60, where I begin drawing my purple line. Reno saying Northwest 305 Reno approach, radar contact. Now he has him 30 miles northwest of Reno. Now I said northwest is 315 degrees. So if I have a 30-mile radius around the airport, and then I come straight out at 315 degrees from the airport, that's my second line along that purple one. That's where he was 30 miles out. And he was telling him that they're going to come in on runway 16. The wind is coming from 020 degrees and his variable speed up to 7 miles an hour. And he's telling us to set his altimeter to 3010. That's the plane has to correct for the barometric pressure, otherwise their altitude indicator is wrong. And it's common for the airport when you're coming in for a landing to give you an update on your barometric pressure. And that's what he's giving it to you right here, 3010. And then he's telling him to maintain his present heading for the vector-defined ILS approach. That means that I'm going to give you a place, a vector, a location, or a fix where I want you to make a turn to go on final approach. And then he's it's funny that they put, that's not an abbreviation. This is literally the guy translated, So expect a lower altitude in 20 miles. So again, this is where I was telling you before, that the 20 miles, if you look at the time, it just doesn't make sense when you look. So we know the timestamp is wrong. What we do know is that it's 8 hours difference from GMT. So where he says 0634, it was really 10:34 p.m. in Reno time. But other than the very first timestamp, all of these down here are estimates by whatever human did this transcript. And they're wrong. They're clearly wrong. You'll see that yourself. The pilot, Northwest, is getting back to him and he's saying, okay, we're trying to make contact with the back now. We're going to have to get these steps up for landing. So we'll proceed and we be liable to break it off at some point, and we'll keep you advised. And then the radio tower goes back. Northwest 305, Reno says, you can expect 9,000 in 3 miles. So from their current position, and they're heading at 060, 3 miles from that point on, they were going to have them go drop down to 9,000 feet in altitude. I plotted those purple points back on the map I showed you. Then at 3 miles from there, Northwest says descend and maintain 9,000. Turn right to heading 090. So now if you look at my map, he has him heading right to that marker that I showed you that's just northwest, where my green line ends. Basically, he's taking him 90 degrees headed to that point. And then when he reached down 9,000 feet and he tells him to turn heading 130 degrees. This does not mean to make a right turn 90 degrees. This doesn't mean to turn 130 degrees. This means turn until you're heading in 90 degrees. Turn until you're heading at 130. And then the pilot responds back, okay, right to 130. So that puts him on a southeasterly intercept with the ILS bearing that's shooting out from the runway. It makes sense. And he's heading southeast to intercept. Then right after that, he's telling him, once you intercept, turn inbound and basically come in and land. That's what that means. And the pilot acknowledges it. Okay, upon intercepting a localizer, we'll turn on final inbound, right? So then the tower gets back to him and he says, you appear to be about a mile east of the localizer. Now a right turn to about 190 will put you back on. And then the pilot says, okay, 190. And then he brings him down to 8,200 feet. Now I want to explain in Google Earth what I just told you. Here is where he was when he was heading north, when he was 42 miles out at 292 degrees, which is west-northwest, and he was heading 60 degrees, which is this purple line. This is approximately 30 miles away. And according to the timestamp, it's 6 minutes. It's only 1 minute from here to here. There's no way that plane traveled 30 miles in that sort of time. So obviously the timestamps are wrong. So we got him back here and he's saying, okay, so still maintain 060. This is the point where he contacts him to bring him in on from heading a 90 to this point. Now, this location, this Fittoon, is a major intersection. Consider it the mouth of a funnel. When flights are coming in from the northeast or the northwest, they get them to this funnel, and then they're either going to take them in from. There's another point over here for the same reason. The flights coming in northwest are all going to go to this point, all of them, and that's where they were obviously taking him from here, and that's where they would bring him in. This is the 130 degrees, this purple line. And he was going to intercept the blue line, which is the ILS. When he intercepted it, he was supposed to turn and follow the blue line in. The air traffic control contact sims right here, which is this distance from here to here is 1 mile. So he's like, you're 1 mile east of the ILS. Turn to 190 to intercept. So now he's setting 190 degrees. So I think I've pretty much proven that there's no way that the plane went anywhere in this area. If it did, he would be at 8,000 feet, and this peak, this Tool Peak, is 8,000 feet, right? That's 8,052, 8,253 feet. Look down here. Here's the elevation, right? Look, 8,415 feet. So if he's at 8,200 feet, he's not going to send the plane anywhere up in here. And even as a pilot, you got to think like a pilot, okay? He's not going to. He's going to come in. He's doing an easterly approach to this vector. They're not going to bring him to the opposite side of this blue line and vector him in. And they confirmed that because they only mention a point when he is only 1 mere mile east of this vector. So this is the where he took. Okay. Now you see this square here, that's 5 miles. We can extend it down here. This is roughly 10 miles. Okay. Right here where that square is. What they did, let me go back to the other document now. Over here, they're giving him time to check the status on the back staircase to determine whether or not he's going to close it. Ultimately, he didn't close it. So what they did is they put him in what's called a holding pattern. And they told him to stay in that pattern to the left or east of the ILS runway bearing. So that confirms that the plane was in a holding pattern over here until they decided to get off the pattern and come in on final and land. So at no point, and a holding pattern is about this wide. It's not that wide at all. It's only a few miles east and west of the line. You're either going to have a left holding pattern or a right holding pattern. They put them on the left. So the plane never went beyond this area, okay? And it never went beyond this. Now, this point is debatable. But look at the fact that he told them to head 90. Would it make sense that they would send him to stay on the 060 heading when he would pass this line? No, it doesn't make sense because when you're intercepting an ILS vector, you're going to do it coming in from the northwest. You can't do it going to the northeast. It doesn't work because your plane is not even heading in the direction of where the darn beacon is. So they were putting him at 90 to probably get him on the same trajectory that I talked about, which is where they told him to turn to 130, intercept the line and follow it in. The pilot missed that line. He went 1 mile beyond it, and then they steered him to turn to 190 to head back to it. And then they entered the holding pattern, and then they landed. So this is where they came in. So if we look at the big picture, what I think they did was they took Victor 20 down to Eugene, and then from Eugene they went to Red Bluff, California, which is what Jason indicated. And then they basically swung around and came in from this direction. This is where they first appeared on radar at Reno, while Reno was in communication with Oakland, California. And then they tracked him again at 30 miles, and then they vectored him from 30 miles into these turns. They gave him a vector here to turn to 130, to turn to 90 and descend to 9,000. Another vector here to turn to 130, get him down to 8,200. Then they told him they missed the intercept line, come back on 130 to intercept the line and land. And here's what he did, the holding pattern. I think there's no way to deny that that's the way they came in. I don't know the details of where the FBI searched, and that doesn't rule out the fact that when he landed somewhere in the desert, if the Ha 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 book is correct, that he didn't go over to Nixon somehow, or he didn't go over and hide the loot somewhere over by Pyramid Lake. That could still be true. So my guess, if I were to guess, if he did jump out closer to Reno, that he jumped out somewhere along here. And that plane being 5 miles behind him in the dark of night, and the lights on the airplane were off inside the plane, and that plane was 2,000 feet above him and 5 miles behind, it would not have been able to see the guy jump. And then by the time he got down to the point where he put the parachute out, that C-130 would have been over the parachute and unable to see it. So my guess, like I said, if I were to guess, is he could have parachuted in somewhere around here. That's pretty much it. But you got to remember, too, that D.B. Cooper did not know where they were. He didn't know when they were here. He had no way of tracking this. He just knew that they were headed down here. But he also knew when they were descending, because he could feel that. He would also be able to kind of tell that they're in a bank. He might not necessarily know that they're heading 90. Then, how they were heading. He could have seen lights from the city here, while they made this turn. I don't know. I mean, nobody knows. We weren't on the plane with him, and nobody was back there. But anyway, I hope this helped you guys. That purple line is exactly the flight path from the first time they appeared on contact with the ATC at the destination to the time when they landed. That is the path. You can agree with it or disagree with it, but if you do disagree with it, that's fine. But I strongly suggest that you consider what I told you. This is 8,500 feet over here. And he's flying at 8,200 feet. He did not go over here. He couldn't have. And he would have crashed into the mountain. Okay? They're not going to do that. Second of all, the pilot. Fittoon is it's the major northwest waypoint that all the flights are routed to. It makes sense that both the air traffic controller and the pilot, who probably flew into this airport before, knew that he would get to Fittoon. And that's where he would come and make his turn to come down southeast so he can intercept the ILS. That makes sense as a pilot. Him flying out towards 8,500 foot peaks does not make any sense to me. There are no there's no beacons up in this area that he would have flown to. There's a beacon down here, okay? There's a beacon up here, but that other path comes in this way. Again, they avoid the mountain. They're coming in this way, and they're going to swing around if they're going to land from this side. They're going to come in that way. And if they're coming in from the northeast, they're going to come in this way. That one would fly over, but there's no reason why this plane would really deviate much from this flight path. Now, obviously, they're not giving exact coordinates. West-northwest, well, it could have been 282 degrees, or it could have been 295. He's not giving a precise. Same thing here. He's saying northwest. He's not saying exactly 315 degrees, which is northwest. So it could have been here or here. Those are rough estimations. But either way, that puts the plane somewhere along this trajectory. You see what I'm saying? The only thing that we definitely know is this is true. This is true. We know what Fittoon is for. We know that he went 1 mile beyond the intercept while he was heading in 130 degrees. And we know that they redirected him to 190 degrees. So we know that this part is correct. We have to know that. That's what the everything is saying in the document. And then the holding pattern, like I said, those are standard things. Now, this could have been a special case because of the hijacked plane, but that doesn't mean that they're going to put him into a crash in a mountain or crashing in the mountains over here. You know, actually, this is only 5,000 feet, 7,000 feet here, 7,500. Virginia Peak is about 8,000 feet. Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense. This appears to work. So anyway, I don't want to get into where you guys might be going, boots on the ground. That's for you to do. And like I said, I'm not trying to steal anybody's thunder here. I'm just trying to help you guys. This is where I think the plane flew. He did not come in where I thought he came in on the green line. This was verified through the air traffic control transcript. And I'm assuming that the transcript is right. I think it is, but I think the timestamps are wrong. But even if you throw all of that air traffic control away, all that really does is I'm still telling you, just any pilot, whether anywhere within this slice of pie, he was coming in anywhere from the northwest, okay? He is going to come in this way and he's going to intercept this line. He's not going to go over here. It doesn't make sense to cross over this green line. It just doesn't. And it certainly doesn't make any sense to cross over the blue line. And let me just put that back for you guys to see. So it just doesn't make sense. This blue line will be used if you're coming in from a higher altitude, incidentally, which is probably what they come in with. They're not going to be sitting at 8,200 feet until they get down around in this area. They would begin their descent out here. And like I said, this 10 miles is kind of your decision point. This is kind of where you would begin to be. You want to be on final when you're within 10 miles. So all of these corrections that they're doing up here are fine. But you don't want to be doing corrections when you're in here, other than for the wind. So that's all based on how a pilot would think. So regardless of whether it's correct or not, this leg is correct or not, it doesn't really matter if he just came in from here, or if he came in from here, or he came in from here. So that's it. That's what I want to say. Have a great day. And I'm going to also be doing another video, but I'm going to get back to the Forest Fenn stuff. I got in contact with somebody on email, and I have a couple of updates. I don't know when I'm going to do that video, but I wanted to get this one out first. So have a good day, folks. Peace.